course, the FISA court is where the feds go, the corrupt investigators go to get warrants to spy on whoever they want. It's very corrupt, the whole process. As you see, even the ACLU here says this is bad news. Here's an interesting tweet from Twitter user called Undercover Huber. It says, within 4 days of the Trump Tower meeting being leaked to the media, Mueller's FBI investigators interviewed a key witness who 100% backed up the account of Donald Trump Jr. and other participants in this meeting. He says there was no collusion or info exchanged. The meeting only lasted a few minutes, mostly about adoptions. What does that mean? What does that mean? And why is everybody so reticent to address that issue? Just like they say with, we don't release the names of men who rape children because that might hurt the children. Now they basically always say, well, we can't look into the backgrounds of the family backgrounds, connections of politicians and judges and that, because that's just not fair to their relatives. Well, look, in today's day and age, actually forever, you need to know who the direct influences on people are and whether or not they might be criminals or something. I just don't think this excuse of privacy really holds up. You don't have to publish everything they do. You don't have to paparazzi them and stalkerazzi them. But we should know some basic facts about the parents and brothers and sisters and close associations of important people like John Roberts. Like, maybe we need to know if his adoptions were on the up and up. And yes, remember, Chief Justice Roberts won't preside in Trump's second impeachment trial. What does the Constitution say? Oddly, who did they go to for this? They went to Chuck Schumer again. It was up to John Roberts whether he wanted to preside with a president who's no longer sitting, Schumer said Monday in an interview with Rachel Maddow, and he doesn't want to do it, says Chuck Schumer. They went to the guy constantly threatening the Supreme Court and threatening others to talk about whether or not Chief Justice John Roberts would be involved in this impeachment that they wanted so badly. It's like Chuck Schumer, the Supreme Court handler. It's worth remembering John Roberts was one of the people who decided not to hear the election fraud cases, as was Amy Coney Barrett. And Amy Coney Barrett also has adopted children. She adopted them after the 2010 earthquake in Haiti. I've covered this enough for everyone to know that very sketchy things went on with taking children out of Haiti. There's the Laura Silsby story, and this does connect directly, once again, to Hillary and Bill Clinton. It's really shocking. All right, let's look at Chief Justice Roberts' wife, Jane Sullivan. She is from Ireland. Jane Sullivan Roberts on Family, Heritage, and Faith. Here they say that she is from Knocklong County in Limerick. So, like I said, down here. Let's look at her resume up until that point, which was in 2009. Right now, she is one of the top recruiters with Major Lindsay and Africa, one of the major legal recruit firms in the capital, Washington, D.C. She worked at Pillsbury Winthrop Shaw Pittman, and she was a partner in the firm's global technology group, focusing on IT outsourcing and procurement of satellite systems. What? Satellite systems? All right, she worked at Shaw, Pittman, Dorsey, and Whitney in a wide variety of matters before various courts, and in 1992, Ms. Roberts litigated before Australian courts with then Arthur Robinson Hedderwicks, a leading law firm in Australia. And it says, before she became a lawyer, she was a systems engineer at Bell Labs. I don't know. Maybe it's normal, but what's with satellite systems? What's with Africa? What's with being able to go and try a case in Australia? All right, let's continue. Now we talk about her Irish heritage. She says she was born in Brooklyn. Her mother was the one that came to America just out of the blue, and her mother ended up marrying the next door neighbor, John Sullivan, who, it says, by all accounts, is a remarkable man. Yet, when you look at John Sullivan's work history, according to his daughter in this very article, the thing that she says that he did was repair ice machines at the post office. Does that even make any sense to anybody? Continuing on, talks about when John Roberts, her husband, was named to the Supreme Court, or the court, says another occasion at the White House when John Roberts, as new Chief Justice, was introducing his family to the president, Jane's mother had wandered off somewhere to look at White House treasures and kept the president waiting. And it says, she recalls one occasion when she was suddenly struck with a sense of awe at a dinner for Queen Elizabeth, when the sight of her husband sitting beside the monarch momentarily made her realize what they had accomplished together. Whoa. Jane Sullivan's mother can just wander through the White House and get lost? Isn't there any security? I could be wrong. Maybe that's totally normal. I don't know, but it seems weird. And then John Roberts and the Queen sitting side by side at a dinner. What? I guess maybe that's normal, but they're pretty highfalutin is what I'm saying. They do have connections. They can wander the White House. They dine with the Queen. Her parents, apparently back in the Bronx, they just seem like regular folks, right? They had rooms set aside in their apartment for the use of greenhorns over from Ireland. And that is immigration again. This reminds me of Project Ari, where Jews would sponsor Russians to come and live in the Bronx area, in Brighton Beach area. I guess the Irish did it in the Bronx. They sponsored people to come over from Ireland, and Jane's parents had rooms in their house dedicated to this purpose, to bringing immigrants over from Ireland to the United States. All right, so I decided to try to find what I could about Jane Roberts's parents. And here's the obituary of her father, John J. Sr. of Carmel, New York. And sure enough, there's his daughter, Jane Roberts. So this is probably him. She has sisters and one brother. The brother's name is John J. Sullivan Jr. John J. Sullivan Jr. So that would be her brother, John J. Sullivan Jr. People often nickname sons called John Jr. Jack. This is to avoid, conflict, because the father is still alive and his name is John as well. Someone interesting has a father called Jack Sullivan. Now here's where I am not really alleging a connection here. I just find it interesting. What strikes me is that very recently in the news, we have someone, a pretty big deal, named John Sullivan, whose father is Jack Sullivan. Who am I talking about? This guy. Capitol rioter / Antifa / BLM John Sullivan. You surely, I hope, have heard of him by now. I don't have time in this video to go through the whole story, but he was right there in the Capitol. There's tons of video that he shot himself where he says he's Antifa dressing up as a Trump supporter. And it's a very complicated story. CNN had him on, as you see, right there that first night. He was allegedly arrested, but the police let him go. Now we find out CNN and NBC News paid him $35,000 apiece for his footage that he got of that day. And his father, according to multiple sources, is named Jack Sullivan, who was into security services, PSYOPs. This is the new Millie Weaver documentary called PSYOP the Steal. There's so much good information, new information to me in this video. And these sources that talk about John Sullivan and his father being in intelligence and having been in the military before are fascinating. They say Jack Sullivan adopted John. John is adopted, and so is John's brother, James. James is in, guess what? The Proud Boys. Oh my gosh. So we've got one son that's in Antifa and BLM and is fake Trump supporter, helping to cause the Capitol riots. And another son, James, who's also adopted, also black, is a Proud Boy, meets with the Proud Boys. It's very fascinating. I might do another whole video just on that. If these witnesses are right, their father is in PSYOPs. That's his profession, in PSYOPs. Now, I am not alleging that these people are in contact with one another or that they're part of the same plan. Not at all. I'm just noticing the themes that keep coming up. Ireland, Sullivan, adopted kids, PSYOPs, the Capitol riots, the Supreme Court. And see, what I'm presenting in just this video might seem like a totally weak argument. I get that. But I have done hundreds of hours of research into this whole type of thing. Adoptions, immigrants, PSYOPs, MKUltra, Lebensborn program. The Vindman family is another example that reminds me of this, with brothers tasked to run a certain